Call me AOL because I'm delivering news that I'm sure you already know. Netflix is struggling. I'm sure you've seen the numbers. Year to date, their stock is down over 60%. But more specifically, over the last week, they've really fallen off a cliff. Just got fucking kicked right down that giant well in 300. They went down 37% in a week. So a lot of people are asking the question, is Netflix dying? And that stock graph is looking like a heartbeat monitor about to flatline. It's not looking good. That shit's looking like Blockbuster back in the day. And a lot of people are wondering, well, what could be the cause for this incredible decline so rapidly? And naturally, everyone's turning to me to answer these questions, since I am the preeminent expert on all things shitty movie and TV show related. I have a genuine passion for horrible media, whether that be horrible games, movies, music, shows, whatever. I just love watching and consuming the worst of the worst. Things that turn other people's stomachs, make them puke, cry, and question the existence of God. I get a big smile on my face and a wet spot in my trousers. I just really enjoy it. So when people saw this happening to Netflix, they were wondering my opinion on it. Is it because all of the terrible shows and movies Netflix keeps funding? And in my expert opinion, and it pains me to do this, I'm going to have to diagnose Netflix with shitty content disease. But it doesn't mean it's terminal yet. Netflix has been funding basically anything made by someone with a pulse. And even that seems to be spotty. It feels like they're funding scripts written by fucking AI. They have a catalog of actual dog shit shovelware. Like, you remember DOSBox ROMs back in the early internet where it was just actual 30-second games that were just being uploaded to the ROM sites that were almost unplayable? That's Netflix right now. They're just this giant cum dumpster of almost unwatchable movies and shows. And it's things nobody is asking for. But they're putting a lot of money into making them for some reason. Like, they'll drop like 50 new originals on like a single weekend. Be like, hey, new on Netflix. Netflix presents The Poop That Took a Pee. And then they'll be scratching their heads like, oh, why is no one watching that one? We put a lot of money into that production. That's so weird. Why is no one watching this? It just shows that no one would ever even think to watch that Netflix is funding. Now, I want to make it clear, I don't think bad content is solely responsible for the decline of Netflix right now in terms of their stock price and all of that. I definitely think it contributes because as things get more expensive, because things are absolutely getting more expensive in our world, the first thing that people are going to cut is a service like Netflix. You know, Netflix is just a luxury to have, and it's an expensive one. It's $25 a month. So as the cost of living goes up, people aren't going to be able to justify subscribing to Netflix anymore when they're not even putting out content that they want to watch in the first place. And especially with so much competition right now, Hulu, HBO Max is kind of killing it. Even Crunchyroll slash Funimation to a certain degree, since anime is so big on streaming, and Netflix is doing a horrible job with their anime catalog with like JoJo's Part 6. God rest its soul. I know everyone's upset about that. Netflix cannot get anything right. Fucking JoJo's Part 6 has been divided up into like part releases where they released 12 episodes a few months back, and they still haven't released the next set of episodes for some inexplicable fucking reason. And they had the audacity to hype up, hey, good news, JoJo's Part 6 Part 2 might come out in 2022. Woo-hee, yeehaw! Getting sidetracked. But competition, you know, Crunchyroll, Funimation, Disney Plus. Disney Plus kind of slapping them around right now since they took all of like the Marvel shows and everything, which people are just going to idly binge forever on that service. So the thing is, Netflix just has a lot to compete with now, and the content they keep funding isn't shit that people want to watch. So their originals don't keep them there, and Netflix has really been bled dry when it comes to shows that people love, to like beloved classics. All of those have gone to other streaming platforms, so Netflix is left with just like the worst of the worst. So I definitely think that does contribute, you know, just not having any of those classic shows anymore for people to just want to watch on Netflix. Those have all gone elsewhere, while also not providing any new originals, and then still increasing the monthly subscription price is just a recipe for disaster. They've been increasing the price but decreasing the quality of content on the service. It's just really ass backwards right now. I just think they're not really sure what to fund, so they just fund everything anyway, even if it's like a student project by a 9-year-old or some shit like that, and then hope that one of them sticks. So they'll get the occasional banger like Squid Game or Arcane, but for every Squid Game and Arcane, there were 1,000 Bruise Brothers and other shows that no one has ever heard of. So yeah, the quality of content hasn't been amazing, and that's surely contributed to a lot of people deciding like, I can't really justify paying $20 a month for Netflix anymore, I'll just cancel it and stick with one of the other services. I do think that's a contributing factor. And another thing I want to just say, and I don't know how much of an effect this has, but I really feel like this whole binge model that Netflix is still just living and dying on, which is where they dump an entire season of a show all at once, is just so fucking dumb. The binge model was cool in the early days where it's like, wow, I get to watch my favorite show that I remember when I was a kid all at once. I don't have to like wait week by week. Or even like a new show, like, wow, all of it's out all at once. But now the novelty, I think, is completely worn off. I much prefer a weekly release of a show. And on Netflix, Arcane proved it could work. It's so much more fun and engaging to watch a show week by week because then everyone's at the exact same pace. You get to discuss it with friends, family, even online because everyone is at the exact same pace. So you can talk about what might happen next, come up with fan theories and speculate, and it's just a lot more fun to engage with the content that way, as opposed to the binge model where they drop all 12 episodes all at once, and then you'll have some people call out work the next day in order to finish it all in one night, and then you can never really talk about it with anyone because everyone's at different places in the content. Example, Stranger Things Season 3. Third season of Stranger Things was very good, but they dropped all the episodes all at once, so some people finished it in one day, some people in 1 week. So everyone was at different places in the show, and no one ever really talked about it. When Stranger Things dropped, there was a lot of hype, and then within like 2, maybe 3 days, no one was talking about Stranger Things Season 3. It just faded from everyone's memory. Whereas something like Arcane, which was on Netflix, people were talking about the entire run. Every single episode, every drop was trending on Twitter with people talking about it. It just gets people more invested in it. When you're able to discuss it with other people, it just makes it more fun. I just think that whole binge model is really counterintuitive to engagement, as well as keeping people on Netflix. I think it's really fucking stupid, to be honest. Like, if you're bleeding out. So you take your best shows and release them all at once. People finish them in one day, and then what's their incentive to stay on there? They'll have to wait another 6 months when you accidentally find another good show to fund. You know, like, why would they continue to pay for it that long? Whereas when it comes to a weekly release, Netflix does get lucky. They have another huge show like Squid Game and they release it week by week. And then they get some people to stay longer because they're invested in that show. Like, it all just makes more sense to just do weekly releases, even just from a business standpoint. But yes, I do agree that the quality of the Netflix content hasn't been great. They've been pumping out a lot of net shits recently, and a lot of people are probably just not bothering to re-up a subscription. But Netflix is cracking down in what I believe to be the wrong area. They're just blaming everyone for password sharing, which is a legitimate problem from a business standpoint. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people share passwords. I myself am getting Netflix from Tiana's account. Everyone shares the passwords to their Netflix. So there is a lot of unpaying Netflix viewers. So that is a lot of money left on the table for them, but it's such a tricky problem for them to navigate because if you really come down with an iron fist, just flop your meat on the table and like villainize anyone that's ever shared a password, it's going to make it a headache to continue using the platform. So most people just won't even bother, and since there's so many alternatives, they'll just go somewhere else. So them cracking down on password sharing is going to be a really tight rope to walk. I know they've tossed around the idea of doing like a really cheap Netflix subscription that has ads with it. For people that don't want to pay the full $20 but still want to watch the content, they could do a cheap alternative but getting some ads there. Maybe that's a decent solution. I don't really know. It's not like an unheard of one. I know other services offer that. I just don't know how successful they are in that area. But again, cracking down on password sharing, like, throw these people in the slammer. They shared their password with too many people. I want them fucking arrested. And like making it really like a cutthroat policy is only going to serve to damage Netflix further. So they have to really come up with like a consumer-friendly option to get people who are sharing passwords to instead pay a little bit to continue watching the content. And I don't know how the fuck they're going to pull off that balancing act. But I do think perhaps the best solution for hemorrhaging so many subscribers is just by offering better content. This is quite literally like that Twitter meme of make better content or I'm unsubscribing. That is actually happening to Netflix right now. The price of everything in the world is getting more expensive. Netflix is expensive. And most people aren't going to want to spend $20 a month for shit where they might get one good show twice a year. That's just not worth the cost. So the best thing they can do is just improve with what they're putting on the platform. And another thing that not a lot of people have mentioned is Netflix's numbers were heavily inflated because of COVID. When COVID hit, everyone went to subscribing to streaming platforms because everyone was locked at home watching shows and movies and shit like that. Now that everyone's getting back into like a normal routine in the real world, all those people are starting to cancel these subscriptions. So the numbers just got like really inflated. So maybe this is just equalizing and it's totally normal. Can't really say for sure, but what I can say for sure is Netflix has so much garbage on it that no one really wants to watch, while only ever providing a couple of good shows a quarter. So that I think is a big problem for them, and the competition's getting fierce. So I just wanted to talk about this a little bit because it's an interesting topic, I think. I always find it very fascinating when there's a company that's too big to fail starting to fail. I don't think Netflix is in any danger of closing its doors anytime soon. They still have like 220 million active subscribers, so they are still very much in the game. It's just a matter of them having a bit of a stumble here, and by a bit of a stumble, I mean they're fucking spiraling down a dirty toilet. A 65% year-to-date loss in the stock is kind of rough, but they're still fine overall. I don't think they're in any danger of dying anytime soon. So I just wanted to talk about it. That's about it. See ya.